my name is Michelle Vergara Moore, and I got into acting. I come from a pretty big family, big Filipino family, so we're always showing off and trying to outdo each other. So I guess that's how I got into it. You know, a few school plays, and then I went to NIDA, the acting school in Sydney, staying in a hotel in Sydney for the Sydney Film Festival 2011. I've got my film that I made last year called Black and White and Sex, and we just had a premiere last night, and we're having an encore showing this afternoon. Okay, so Black and White and Sex, it's a film about Angie, who's a sex worker in Sydney, and without giving too much away, it just explores the background, backstory of how she became a sex worker, why she became a sex worker, and the different, I guess, preconceptions that a lot of people have about sex workers, and breaking down the stereotypes and cliches and prejudices. The fun thing about the movie is that the character of Angie is actually played by 8 different actresses, but in a linear narrative. So I play Angie 5, so I'm 5th in the film, and all the actresses are like different ages, different ethnicities, really totally different looks. John Winter, so he wrote and directed the film, and he's formerly a producer of quite a few Australian films, like Doing Time for Patsy Cline and Rabbit Proof Fence, so he's had quite a bit of experience in Australian film. He was absolutely fantastic. Like, he wrote this script, and there was actually a couple of weeks rehearsal process, which usually doesn't happen in feature filmmaking, and he was really wonderful and encouraging, and let us explore the character. Sorry, because I actually had a cast and crew screening a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't come because I just wasn't able to leave New York in time, and I had quite a big group of Filipino, I guess, my entourage, my ladies. So I had my mother, my mother-in-law, my 4 sisters, my 2 sisters-in-law, and the film's rated R, and there's a couple of, I won't give it away, but there's a couple of moments, and I was just giggling nervously. It's my mum and my mother-in-law right in front of me. But yeah, apart from that, maybe there was a couple of champagnes involved there too. Well, I just auditioned for a short film in Melbourne last week that touches on the subject of Pauline Hanson. Yes, so I'll see how I go with that. But it was very interesting because the casting called for a Eurasian specifically. And sometimes I'm mistaken for half Australian or half Anglo or half Caucasian, half Asian, but my complexion's quite dark, so probably I don't think I'll get away with it this time. So, and then I'm going back to New York, where I'm based at the moment. So I sort of shuttle back and forth between Melbourne, Sydney, Los Angeles, New York. I'm actually lucky enough to have scored a green card through the lottery a couple of years ago with my hubby. So I'm a permanent resident in the US as well, so that's great. So for opportunities that arise there in the future. A project I shot last year is a short film called The Story Keeper, and it was written and directed and produced by a young Sydney filmmaker named Celia Lamb. Yeah, so that was an interesting project in that the short film is actually part of a collective of 5 short films with a sort of a running theme throughout. So I had a great time shooting that with Celia. I would love to play a role. Well, actually, I was going to say play a role that had nothing to do with my ethnicity, but that's actually, in this film, Black and White and Sex, actually, it's got nothing to do with my ethnicity, because I guess in the past I'm always been cast as, you know, the downtrodden sex slave or something like that. But I guess, just work with someone, like I love Sean Penn and I love like Sam Rockwell, and it'd be amazing to work with a couple of actors like that. But I would love to work in Australia. I really love Australia, and hopefully in the future there'll be more roles for Asian Australians, and it won't be I guess colourblind casting is something that should be explored more in the Australian casting industry. So yeah, that's what I'd like to do.